Hi, it's John Ondo. If you're wondering what happened to Marketing, Media, and Cupcakes, well, those episodes are still there, but we've changed and rebranded the podcast to The Media Download. It's going to be a lot of the same content. We're going to continue to talk about media trends and communication strategies and have a lot of great guests. And Angel will still be with us, but we wanted to focus the podcast a little bit tighter, and that's why we're calling it The Media Download. So you can still listen to the Marketing, Media, and Cupcakes podcast, but now Season 3 is now called The Media Download, and I hope you enjoy this new podcast. Please subscribe and share it with your friends. I think you should have a podcast, an audio podcast. In a world filled with screens that we watch and we scroll and we stare into, there's still something quite powerful about your voice in someone's ear. Today we're talking about podcasts and why audio podcasts in particular still hold a real advantage, I can't believe I'm saying this, over video. Today joining me is my good friend Terry Dismore. He's a veteran radio broadcaster and these days a podcaster himself. Someone who understands the power of an interview and the theater of the mind. Hi, I'm John Ondo, and this is The Media Download. Hi, I'm John Ondo, and this is a podcast design where we throw amazing tools into your media toolbox to work smarter, not harder. I have over 4 decades of experience in television and documentary filmmaking, and I've learned some hacks and some shortcuts that help my clients with small budgets look big time. Make sure you subscribe to this channel on YouTube and to our audio podcast as well. And we are always a presentation of Ondo Media. Joining me today on the Media Download is my good friend Terry Dismore.
Hey, John.
A train and cars aficionado as well as a Skyline Chili expert and friend.
Yes.
We have many, many discussions about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness at Skyline, so I would like a coupon, please, from corporate on that. So today, what I would like to talk about with you, and this seems kind of odd, I would like to talk about podcasting.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never been on a podcast before. Oh, wait a minute.
Well, yeah, you have. You have your own podcast called Quizzed It Is.
Yes, sir.
Tell me what made you think Quizzed It Is, other than its clever name.
Well, podcasts are a good way for you to do 2 things. One is get your opinion out. That's the first thing. Nobody, absolutely nobody on the planet is entitled to my opinion. But I'm glad to share it with whoever I want to that'll listen. That's what a podcast is for. I think. Or to get the message out about what you do, that's good. But it has to be, and I've said this in another podcast, it's got to be one of 3. It's got to be 3 things to make it effective. Personality, so it's you. So when I watch John Ondo, The Media Download, I had to look over there and remind me what the
it's
title.
a new name, but yeah.
When I watch you on The Media Download, I know what it's about. It's about media. It's not going to be about anything else.
The sewing show didn't work.
No, I wouldn't think
we had to
so.
cancel that one.
It's got to be about something I'm interested in. A podcast is normally a more long-form thing than an Instagram post, for instance.
I think podcasting is still underrated, and one of the things I've been trying to do this year, I've got a couple clients, or I hope to be clients, they're running for election this year. And I said, you need to have a podcast, because Instagram is great. I like Instagram, nothing wrong with it, but you can't give me your real viewpoints on taxes, immigration, school board systems on an Instagram page.
No. And if you remember, during the 2024 election, Mr. Trump spent an extremely large amount of time on podcasts.
Joe Rogan,
Well, Joe Rogan and Theo Vaughn, who I'd never even heard of. They're longer form, and they're not edited. See, now this podcast is slightly edited, but it's not a lot. I'm going
to take all your stuff out. So,
well, thanks. I'm used to that. But like the Quiz That Is podcast, I'll edit out if I, hork up a lung or something like that. But
Thank
I don't.
You for that.
You're welcome. Anybody having lunch?
Yeah.
But the thing about a podcast, especially an audio podcast, is I can listen to it anywhere. If you've noticed, the number 1 podcast in the country is Rogan, right?
Yep.
You can listen to it or watch it.
And the video, again, Joe Rogan will come and shoot my porch light out. The video quality is not that, oh my gosh, it's over the top. But his content's very good. But at the end of the day, I'm not really watching it for impressive set design or anything. I'm really listening because he's going to have a guest, and it's going to be kind of an uncensored, straight to the point commentary.
Right. And he'll use some clips, and there's sometimes he doesn't. But what I'm getting at is, a podcast has to be interesting. Now, you and I talked about this years ago. What makes a podcast interesting? It's not the podcast they're interested in. It's what you're interested in.
Right.
So your podcast has to be interesting to you.
Let's talk about, though, with the podcast concept. I see a lot of people who, have kind of missed the boat. And I think podcasts really are essential. A couple of big ones. Churches should be using podcasts because, again, you can get into detail. And let's face it, church stuff isn't 15 seconds and you're done. You have to go in and teach or explain things. Politics, big deal there because you have to explain a point of view. Or if you can have a podcast that debates, what a concept. Podcasts, I feel like, have, at least in television and radio, we typically will say it's a national show, it's a local show. And I feel like a lot of people say, well, I don't want to talk about local high school sports on a podcast because it's a national audience. Well, I don't think that's true. My son, who plays high school volleyball, very good at it. We're looking for colleges. There is a local couple guys who do a video and audio podcast, and they talk about high school volleyball. They take you right through the state, and they do an outstanding job of it. They're not sports broadcasters. They could be, but they know the high school volleyball, both girls and boys in Central Ohio, and they do a great job. And to me, unfortunately, and I know this will come as a shock to you, local radio doesn't do local stuff anymore.
What?
And so tell me about the great opportunities for people to think about taking the place of local radio by doing a podcast about these topics that are completely gone now.
Well, and for instance, we had talk shows in Louisville when I was there that were local, that they don't exist anymore, but the interest is still there.
Yeah.
The problem with it is the financial side of it's gone away. Well, the great thing about podcasting is there's an expense to it. But I mean, you've got money invested here in the lighting and camera and mics. But for an audio podcast, I need one of these.
You can do an audio podcast for under $100 probably, and other than getting a subscription to Buzzsprout or one of the other, it's pretty simple. Now you're going to need to promote it if you're going to try to get it known. Yes. But that doesn't cost a whole lot of money. It just basically is elbow grease. You got to get it on there and put it on social media.
Well, right. And if you use a subscription service, and I'm not saying you have to use Buzzsprout, but if you did, for instance, mine is 4 hours content a month for $13. And what that does is it's uploaded. I'm using their website now. I changed it over from mine because it's like it's the same website twice. It allows me to link. It counts how many not views, but how many downloads I get. In your case, it would count how many views. It tells me my cumulative downloads over time. You want those statistics, and you want to see what works.
Yeah.
If you're doing it as a hobby, there are such things as vanity podcasts, meaning I just want to hear my voice.
Yeah.
Now, let's be honest. It's all vanity podcasting because we're not making enough money yet to make this a profitable business. I had
a lovely client who wanted to do a podcast, and she did, and was really expecting it to buy a new car for her, and she actually had a fairly decent audience. She was in the hundreds a week, which is very good for audio podcasts.
Yeah.
But she couldn't get the sponsors. Part of it was some of the content was a little bit edgy, and it wasn't sponsorable. That's what I think people overlook. I guess if we want to say things that we overlook with podcasts is local, because you can do some cool stuff if you know or got somebody who knows a little bit about geofencing. That you can promote your podcast just to the county or the area that you're talking about, or just if you're going to do a Corvette podcast, as we keep talking about, you can target it just to people who own Corvettes. So and that means you may have a chance to get the local GM dealer to maybe throw some money at your podcast. So it doesn't mean you're going to make thousands of dollars. You may make enough to make it worth your while, which I think is what all of us want. It's
right.
Because there's days I'm like, I got to make a podcast. It's a little easier when I know, you know what, I may have a couple $100 coming in because of that.
Right. And so the quiz that is, I haven't monetized it. I could, but I haven't. Part of that is just lack of effort. And the other is, I know what I want to talk about, and I think sometimes that's not going to be accepted. It's kind of like Facebook. I put a Facebook post up the other day that it wasn't well received, but it's okay. I was able to use it as a lesson for myself and for other people. That's great. I don't have a problem with that. But there are ways with every place that you go. I know I've mentioned Buzzsprout already, but other places you can host podcasts will allow you to monetize. The problem with letting them monetize it, or for instance, in your case, for letting YouTube monetize this podcast, is you don't have much control over who gets on there.
You don't.
Do you have any?
Right now, no. We're not monetizing it because we're just starting out. And here's the thing. I encourage everybody to understand, like we said before, and this is the worst sales pitch ever. You're probably not going to make a lot of money doing a podcast.
No.
You're probably not going to reach a gigantic audience. But the best illustration I ever heard is, a good podcast, a really good podcast, you have 80 to 100 people listening a week.
Yeah.
And people say, well, that's not worth much. I can get 2,000 or 4,000 or whatever on YouTube. But those people are only watching for a very short period of time on YouTube.
Yes.
Little different audience. Podcasts is a completely different audience. If I said, hey, I got a group of people that want to hear you speak this Thursday, how many people are going to be there? There's going to be 100. Oh, I don't care about that. No, you would absolutely show up if 100 people show up to hear you speak. So podcasting has that kind of power. I've always treated like I only have 30 listeners this week. That's 30 people that are listening to me, and that's an opportunity to help them, give them some good advice or whatever it might be.
Well, right, and you remind them to let other people know about you and so on. I understood going into doing my podcast that it was a vanity podcast. It was to prove I could still carry this off. But when I see now that I've got 3,000 downloads,
wow, that's great.
I'm like, well, that's not bad.
No, it's not bad at all.
Now, here's my problem. I was inconsistent. The important thing about podcasting, if you're going to do it, is make your mind up you're going to do it on a regular basis. Secondly, keep in mind that people will listen to you. There was a question you and I asked each other years ago. How long should a podcast be? Do you remember this?
Yes.
And how long should it be, John?
It should be long enough.
Yes.
Unless I always tell people how long it should be, and I always say it needs to be long enough, which...
Yeah. And my answer to that is as long as it's interesting.
Well, you brought up two things that I think good hacks and tips for if you're going to start a podcast. The first thing, I have some podcasts I love to listen to, and I skip through the first 5 minutes.
Yes.
Because, and this is, we talk about this in radio. There's banter between the hosts. You want to get to know the hosts, but I don't need 8 minutes to get to know the hosts. I also need to know what you're going to talk about, because there are podcasts that I love that are just it's the topic this week isn't worth my time.
No.
And I need to know that ahead of time. And I appreciate a podcast that's like ours. We will say at the beginning, today we're going to talk about hacks for an audio podcast.
Yeah.
You know instantly what we're going to talk about. Maybe we'll have a little fun at the beginning, but we're not going to spend too much time. I see way too many people, and again, I refer to this, showing my age, the Regis and Kathy Lee.
Yeah.
The Regis and Kathy Lee concept of we're going to have chat for the opening 5 minutes of the show. That works for Regis and Kathy Lee. They're entertaining.
Yes.
But for most people, I don't need. I want to hear the topic you want to get to. So on your audio podcast,
get to the point.
As Steve Martin said in Trains, and Automobiles, it'd be great if you had a point to your story. It'd be great if you had a point to your podcast.
Well, he had another great line, too, and that was, the most important thing about comedy is timing.
Timing, yeah.
Well, that's the same thing with your podcast. If you don't tell people what you're going to talk about pretty quickly. Now, mine has an intro, but it's 13 seconds. And you can hit your skip button and you're to my podcast. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. But in the first 10 seconds of the podcast audio, me and you talking or me talking, I say, today we're going to talk about thus and so. Some people at that point are like, I'm out. I'm not interested.
Yep.
Well, I'll also try to have it in my title. But podcasting, a hack to podcasting is talk about something you're interested in, but get to the point.
Get to the point. And again, you'll see this with my podcast. I make a very quick, hey, if you like the podcast, please subscribe.
Yes.
I don't do the big, long, hey, if you enjoyed today's podcast, would you please share, subscribe, like, lick a stamp. I don't know. They have all these things they make you go through.
Yes.
And I'm like, I get it. I know the drill. Like and subscribe. If you want to be notified of a new podcast dropping, like and subscribe. Move on.
Right.
5 seconds. Don't take too much time, because people who listen to podcasts know how it works.
They know.
For the most part.
Yeah, they know.
And so, I'm looking for the brainier people, so I assume that they know how it works.
What am I doing here?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I was a slow day. So the thing about it is, get to make a short intro. I know some podcasts, again, they are using it to market themselves. And I know what they're using. In the case of Buzzsprout, they have what's called a pre-roll, and it's a pre-recorded thing you can stick on, and they'll go on for 2 minutes. I'll be appearing in Albuquerque. I'll be in Denver. I'll be in this. Check out my website. I get it, but I'm skip.
Yeah.
Where you can put that at the end.
Yes.
Because here's what I would do if I were you. If you got places you want to talk about, you may put a break in the middle of the show. Stay tuned, middle of the show. I'm going to have where I'm going to be located, some things.
Right.
Or links. Remember, this isn't just audio. There's metadata. There's stuff underneath in the description. If you're looking for where I'm going to be at, click the link, look at it. Because if I'm driving the car, I don't care if you tell me the 18 places you're going to be at or the promo code for my book. I'm not going to remember that. No. It's got to be in the link. So just hit the links. Hit the links. That's what we should do, actually. Yeah.
That's exactly right.
So.
We're probably 2 months from being able to do that here.
Yeah, I know.
Can I make one other point?
Yeah, I think we'll work that out.
All right. A point that a lot of people do is they want to do interviews. May I speak about interviews for just a minute?
No, but thanks for joining us today, Terry. No, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. This is important because you understand this art form.
Yes, and I've done a lot of interviews over the years, and one of the things I hate the most, 2 things that I hate the most, are people that can't make their point in less than 2 points.
Yes, exactly.
One is listen.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times your next question that you have written down isn't what your speaker is speaking about.
Yeah.
And you'll have a better point if you'll listen to them.
Let me give an example right
Yes, sir.
now. When you are doing an interview, Terry, and somebody says something important, and you get that moment where they say something touching, how does it make you feel?
And I'll wait.
Yeah. That and literally what I just did, you can copy and paste that.
Yeah.
If you're talking to somebody, again, I'm Corvette centered here. I just got a Corvette. Tell me, what did it feel like the moment you drove that off the lot? Tell me what it felt like. If somebody's lost a spouse or a friend.
Yeah.
Okay. Tragic. Tell me how you felt that first night. That really is, I hate to say it's a hack, but it really is important.
It's a technique. It's fine.
We need the emotion. And if you're just asking what date, what time, you're missing the point.
Well, and we talked about this when we were prepping the podcast today.
Which we used none of the notes from.
Well, yeah, but, why go into something professional when we can do this? Is when you can have emotion or logic. That's the picture in most people's mind. Why not be somewhere in the middle? Larry King was
master
at it, and something I learned from him was this: don't read the book.
Yep.
Don't ever read the book.
I very rarely do a lot of prep I've interviewed vice presidents. I've interviewed presidents of other countries. I've actually started interviews. Why am I talking to you?
Yeah.
They're caught off guard. I was like, well, I really wanted to talk about something that happened.
And of course, you're going to edit it, but it's not the same thing. You've been an executive producer for a Tell Us a Good Story podcast for a while, and the great thing that they do is there's an agenda, but there's not an agenda.
Yeah.
So there are questions that they're going to ask, and they're here and they're listed. But if they hear a good question, I've not listened to that show so far and thought, oh, man, that was a good spot for a question.
Yeah.
But a lot of podcasts I do. So first of all, when you're interviewing someone, don't read their book. And secondly, when you're interviewing someone, listen to what they say. And the reason you don't want to read the book is you don't want to be like, well, on page 83 you mentioned this, because your listener is probably never heard of the person you're talking to before.
You can certainly pick up interesting stories. Sure. Again, like Steph and Kevin do on Tell Us a Good Story, which is a great podcast. And they'll say, in your book, you have an amazing story about meeting Elvis. Tell me about that. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah. But saying on page 83 you mentioned the word gefilte fish, and I want to know what that was. No. Nobody cares.
No. So I think that's so true. Interviewing is an art. Larry King. There's different people. Charles Kuralt, bless his heart soul, was my role model, and then so many of the CBS Sunday morning guys that do what I call the human interest people stories.
They're very good at
it. One of the great producers of stories, Fox Sports, used to be at ESPN, Tom Rinaldi. Television and radio is all about emotion. Would you not agree?
Yeah, and it's primarily emotion. There is some logic to it. In my consulting practice, which is called Prosper Leadership, my tagline for that when I'm in a networking meeting is this: I make my clients cry. Mm-hmm. And they're like, well, how do you do that? Well, I ask them the one question they've never been asked before.
For me, the biggest reward is when I get a genuine person. There's some people who just say this, but when they genuinely say, wow, that was a great question.
Yeah.
I've had that happen a couple times, and I remember once a dear mentor of mine, he's gone on with the Lord, he was interviewing Ken Miedema?
Yeah.
Blind pianist, Christian artist. And he was very drawn to him. He knew him, and he interviewed him. I was like, I haven't seen Ron interview anybody that much.
Yeah.
But he was very good. He's very Paul Harvey-ish in his thing. And he said, Ken, there'll be a day when you're not here anymore. What would your headstone read?
Oh. And
Ken's like, wow, I that's a great question. I'd never thought of that. And I sat back. That hit me. I'm like,
yeah,
that will be my goal when I interview people, even if it's about how we got to rebuild the sewer lines outside.
Yeah.
How is this going to impact people? How will this change things? And everything we just talked about, the emotional moments of crying, maybe you can get it on YouTube in long form. You can't get it on Instagram. You will not get it on Facebook. You will get it in an audio podcast, and in some cases in a video podcast if you can do it right.
Yeah. So you got to have, if you're going to do a video podcast, let me encourage you to either be very good at editing yourself or have someone that like you, John, that understands that everything, let me reemphasize that, everything has to do with the story. You have a perfect lighting, perfect set, perfect topic, but if it's not a good story, nobody gives a rat's patootie about it.
No cussing on this show.
I'm sorry.
But here's the thing. You're right. And say as I take this wide shot, if I have a single camera, that's great. But I can't push into your emotional, I can't see the eyes. I can't see when you tell me about the tragedy of your bike wreck when you were a child on a wide shot. And so production matters on a video podcast. And that's why a lot of people come to me and they say, oh, John, I want to do a video podcast. I'm like, do the audio first. Get your techniques figured out on interviewing, guests lined up. Then maybe if you figure that out, you'll be ready for a video. But I'll tell you, very few video podcasts are done solo. I'm kind of doing mine solo because I will go back and do massive amounts of editing to it. And I can tweak and do some things. For the most part, when you see Rogan, you see Bargazzi and these guys, they've got a crew of people shooting their stuff.
Yeah, you're not doing it by yourself. And the great thing for you, John, is you have learned to tell the story. You've learned how to tell the story. You've learned when to leave. This is one of the things, if we ever talk about sales on this podcast, I will tell you this. Leave people asking you a question. So, as I
leave them wanting more.
Right. Yeah. Because I gave the example a few minutes ago. I make my clients cry. How? Ask them the one question they've never been asked. Always leads to another question. That was one thing I was taught in sales. Always leave them asking a question because then they're interested. If they're not interested, you can tell real quick, move on to somebody else.
Now, Terry, tell us where I can listen to your amazing podcast.
All right, my podcast is available at quizthediz.com, and I publish about once a week.
There you go. So check that out. And if you have any questions, we hope this is helpful because we all need some tips and some hacks to learn our way through media. And Terry and I have combined years of experience. And we hope this is helpful for you. Start an audio podcast. Let's get these stories out, whether it's helping your business or if it's just something fun you want to do, to just let people know we need to tell these stories. So I hope this has been a great download for you today on the Media Download.